What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 48 of Breaking Bats, presented to you by Not For Long Media. I am your host, Brian O'Grady, and with me, as always, my co-host, J.A. Justin Ayers. Start by apologizing again because I'm on the phone, again because my laptop just did not want to cooperate, and J.A. spent 45 minutes on FaceTime with me trying to walk me through every step possible to get it to work, and still didn't. So I'm obviously not very good at it. But anyway, JA, what's going on? You picked out the number guy today, and it's a great one. So you can tell him what number episode it is.
In honor of number 48, episode number 48, this episode, it's the Torii Hunter episode of Breaking Bats. That's, again, shout out Baseball Reference. A fun little game for baseball nerds if you want to just type in like Baseball Reference and then a jersey number. It's so cool the way they list it out. But yeah, Torii Hunter was so cool to watch growing up. The guy flew around there in the outfield. Was it the 2013 when Big Papi hit the grand slam in the playoffs when he was with Detroit, flipped over the fence, got the cop with his arms up. We got Torii with his legs up. And then also, I forgot about this, but in 2004, remember when he robbed Barry Bonds at the All-Star game?
I do remember that. Yep. Did he pick him up on the way in or something?
Yeah, he as he was jogging back to the dugout or whatever, Barry just threw him over his shoulder. Great career. Great career.
Great player. Great
career. Yeah. 19 years in the bigs. Played with Trout there for a little bit in LA too. So yeah, that's our number 48. We wanted to go, with an actually good player this week, as opposed to some of the ones that I picked just because they play for the Nationals. So, it's all, what, also, Brian, this is like officially like the Christmas episode, if you think about it, because we're taping this the 20th, coming out the 21st. Christmas is coming. So the season of giving is upon us. So, yeah, we're just trying. We should have been more festive. That's our fault.
We should have. Yeah, that's on me. Did you get your Christmas shopping done?
I did. 95% of it through Amazon. So shout out Bezos. Coming in clutch. I feel like most people are gravitating towards mostly online shopping. And then there's always that frantic last minute, like in person, like shit. All right, I need like 3 things for like my mom. So, still did a little of that.
I think that's almost unavoidable, but yeah, I was pretty good this year. I went straight online. I'm all done. Been done. Can't wait. Nothing but coal for my wife and daughter. So we'll see how that turns out.
And how old's your daughter? I mean, anything you get her is going to be, that's an interesting
7.5 months.
Yeah. So
yeah. Like my wife got her, some stuff, but hopefully next year will be the start of, the fun years where she's getting more. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
It's the best. Yeah, it's, it's cool because I have a college kid schedule again, working for a college. So I get like a winter break. I'm going to do like traditional college kid, things during winter break. I'm just going to play like Call of Duty and just not move for week at a time. So looking forward to it.
That sounds like a great time. I'm jealous. Good for you. Enjoy it.
It's the best. So yeah, we definitely should have spruced up the backgrounds or something for Christmas here, but we'll talk about some of the free agency stuff going on here around the league. We have a great interview coming up with Thomas Eshelman, formerly of the Orioles, now coach for the Padres system. But before we get to all the fun stuff, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Som Sleep. Are you like Brian and you can't really sleep well at night? Because Som Sleep has you covered. The scientifically advanced Som snack has ingredients that are naturally found in your body, like GABA, magnesium, and melatonin. Sleep is the best form of recovery, and it's helped people everywhere take their game to the next level. All you have to do is drink 1 serving in 30 minutes before you go to bed, and your body will naturally calm itself down. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to conquer your day. You're going to want to go to getsom.com, click shop, and enter the code BATS, B-A-T-S, at checkout for 10% off of your entire order. All right, a lot of big free agency news since the last time we talked. We'll start with Carlos Rodon and the Yankees. 6 years, $162 million contract. If you look at like this guy's Baseball Reference page and you just kind of see like his career arc and career journey, it's been super interesting. Like for high round pick out of NC State, missed most of 19 and 20 due to an injury. Roughly league average before that, like high 3, low 4 ERA. And then just in the last 2 seasons, he's turned it on where he's like back-to-back over 5 WAR a year, Chicago and San Fran. Like, do you think that this is the Carlos Rodon that we can expect? I don't want to say for the entire duration because 6 years is a long time, but what do you like about the Rodon to the Yankees contract here?
Yeah, it's definitely seems like he's figured something out. obviously the talent has been there forever. Good for him going there, getting this money. I think it's a nice ad for the Yankees, and I think he's going to pitch well. Good compliment with Garrett Cole there, righty and a lefty. But you know, aside from like Rodon, I'm thinking, for the Yankees, I don't know how much he moves the needle for them. Their pitching's not bad already. Uh, I think they need position players. So while signing Carlos Rodon is not gonna, he's definitely not gonna hurt your team. I just don't know if it was the best move that they could have made. So uh, I'm just interested to see how it works out. I'm sure he's going to pitch really well, and you get in a playoff series. Now you have Cole and Rodon up there, and that's definitely a great 1-2. I'm just interested to see how it works out. It's like they bring back Judge, which obviously they needed to do, but what else? Judge carried that offense for the majority of that year, and they haven't added anything else there. They've just gotten guys older. So just interested. But, strictly talking about Rodon, great pitcher, really good stuff. I think he'll play really well there.
I mean, that's music to my ears talking about the demise of the New York Yankees, because you're right. I mean, like, they just lost, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. Like, Matt Carpenter was the juice there for like a good month. Like, he kind of like helped carry the load of Aaron Judge there for a little bit. But yeah, you're right. Like, even when their pitching has never been a problem, but I feel like this move also is probably made for like, in case Nestor Cortez regresses, which, I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but like, it probably will to some degree. Like, I don't know if he's gonna be posting those kind of numbers year in, year out. Like, Severino could be healthy for a full year. They're obviously counting on Frankie Montas too to not be 2022 Frankie Montas and to turn it around. So and we've talked a lot about last week duos of starting pitchers. Where do you think Cole and Rodon rank in terms of starting pitching duos?
Yeah, actually, when I was saying that, I actually thought about that in my head, exactly, and it's definitely top five. I definitely think it's top five. Not sure exactly where I'd have to look, but I like it. I like Rodon a lot. I think he's tough. That lefty arm angle, the fastball, the good power fastball. He's got great stuff. I mean, Cole is Cole. It's just, I don't know. It's like with the Yankees. I guess it's unfair because every year with the Yankees, it's truly World Series or bust, basically. And if they don't win the World Series, everyone shits on them anyway. So it's like that's unfair because obviously only one team wins it, and it's very hard to do. So, I like the signing again. I like the signing, but I just don't think that it makes them as a team that much better.
I like that. I have a quote. I was reading a Fangraphs article about Rodon, and I wanted to get your take on it. Just talking about the Yankees and Brian Cashman. It says, "It's a great capstone move by Brian Cashman as AL East rivals drew closer to him over the winter, particularly the Toronto Blue Jays. But by signing Rodon, he not only climbed up to the roof, but he also pulled the ladder up behind him." Does that might be hyperbole? That might be a little exaggeration there. Does this just like seal the AL East for the Bronx Bombers there?
I'm not in my mind. I mean, I just don't. Again, Cole and Rodon, phenomenal. That is great, but you can't win games if you're not scoring runs. At the end of the day, you got to score to win. And you talk about regression. I mean, is Judge going to hit 60 something homers again? Chances are no, right? I mean, can he for sure? But I don't know whoever the last guy to hit 60 homers back to back seasons is. They've re-signed Anthony Rizzo, who is a really good player, and they need him. But other than what else? I mean, they haven't done anything else. You're banking on the kid Anthony Volpe to come up and play shortstop eventually. And I know they had some other young, what was it? Peraza and Cabrera came up and did some nice things, but you still Harrison Bader looked good in the playoffs, so you get him for a full year. But you're still talking about Aaron Hicks struggling in the outfield. Stanton, is he going to be healthy? Obviously, when he's healthy, he's a very, very good player. Josh Donaldson's another year older. He's playing third base, I guess. And I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of question marks there that are just still question marks, the same as last year. It's the same team plus Rodon. Is that good enough to get you over the hump of whatever else is in the AL? I don't think so.
Something to keep an eye on. Yeah, you're right. They have to go back up against the Astros. Probably we're looking ahead to 2023. I mean, the rotation, could it go up against them now? I don't know. Framber Valdez, Christian Javier. It'll be interesting to see.
And they had, Jose Abreu's on that team now. I mean, they lose Justin Verlander, which, definitely big, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting. That's all I'll say.
All right. There's another move that we wanted to talk about. It was Dansby Swanson. So he was the last of the big four shortstops to sign this offseason. Dansby's going to the Chicago Cubs for 7 years, $177 million. I went and looked. So apparently the Braves had offered him 6 for $100 around the All-Star break. And Dansby's like, no, I'm not doing that. And then I don't think they ever really made him another significant offer after that. So it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that he wasn't going back to Atlanta. Dansby, though, like, again, another Baseball Reference just journey of a career where it's like the guy was super rushed to the big leagues. He played like less than, I think it was like 100 something games in the minors. He was drafted by the Diamondbacks, quickly traded, rushed up by Atlanta. But it's like, he had that stretch for that 3-4 years there. It was tough. It was tough at the plate. Figured it out, though. I mean, he plays like almost every single day the last couple of years. He averages 26 homers the last couple of years too. But it's like, in a season where we see guys like Trey Turner and Carlos Correa sign these gigantic mega contracts, like, I don't know, 7 for 177 for Dansby Swanson, not too bad.
I think it's a great contract for him. The Cubs needed somebody that's kind of come in and be the face of that franchise now. And, he's a good shortstop. The Braves, I guess they probably have some young guy we don't even know about, or I know Vaughn Grissom can play some middle infield. I don't know how much of shortstop he's played, but maybe Jeremy Pena's success with the Astros has the Braves feeling that they can replace him for that dollar value. But I'm happy for Chicago. Good for Dansby. The Braves, man, they better have some sort of plan, because the Phillies and the Mets are going to be no joke in that division, and the Braves are going to have their work cut out for them. And Dansby was a big part of that team.
Absolutely. I mean, Dansby, Gold Glove, deep caliber defense too. But yeah, you're right. They do like this Vaughn Grissom guy a lot. 41 games last year, he batted .291. So yeah, I mean that could be like Jeremy Pena vibes with the Astros. Guy comes in, fills the shoes of a guy that leaves in free agency. Doesn't do too bad. But you're right. The Cubs, one of my friends is a Cubs fan. We talk about this all the time. It's like they had 74 wins in 2022, but it's the Chicago Cubs. And now that they've had the success that they've had in the last 5 years, it's like, yeah, you can't just go back to being bad again. Like, I feel like you kind of have to sustain that level of success. I'm curious too, like, how much better are the Cubs, do you think? Well, so like Bellinger, Tyone, they signed for the rotation. Dansby, Boxberger for the pen. They got rid of Jason Hayward, which could be addition by subtraction. Like, what are we thinking for Chicago Cubs next year? Is it going to be markedly better?
I don't think markedly better, maybe a little bit better. I mean, if you're getting MVP Bellinger, if he gets his swing stuff, I got to think he's going to have a better season. How much better of a season, we'll see. That's a nice up the middle right there. Dansby at shortstop and him at in center field. But they lost Wilson Contreras. That's a big. He's been one of their guys for a while now. The Reds aren't very good, but the Cardinals are very good, and the Brewers are a pretty good team too. I don't know who the free agent class is after this year, but yeah, you would think the Cubs are still looking to make some splashes, right?
And by the durations of the contracts they're handing out too, it looks like they're angling to be better, for a long period of time, or try to set themselves up. You ever heard of this guy, Matt Mervis, by the way? Mervis.
I heard the name or saw the name somewhere talking about him. First base.
Yeah, big lefty first base. 36 bombs and a 309 average in the minors last year. They're counting on him to be like pick up the power, I feel like, in that Cubs lineup. So look at us going all in depth here. We're breaking shit down like it's MLB Network tonight. It's keep an eye out for that Matt Mervis guy, because that could be your first base DH guy for the Cubs there. Maybe help pick up some of the gap there. Big shoes to fill though for Frank Schwindel. So
Frank the Tank going to Japan. Maybe coming back on the pod, talk about Japan.
We do. Write that down. Make mental note of that. We would like to have him talk about the Oryx Buffaloes at some point. Yep. So yeah. Anyway, going back to the Cubs real quick. Last 70 games of the season, 39-31. So they had a better second half than most people thought. I think they had 74 wins last year. This is a 500 team. This is a 500 or maybe slightly better, pushing for that third wild card, I feel like. Why not? I also had them as one of my teams to watch going into this year. So
that third wild card is going to be hard to come by, though. That's the only problem. But you're right. I think Seiya Suzuki can be a nice player if he stays healthy. But you're going to be talking about the Phillies, Braves, and Mets out of that NL East, and then the Dodgers and Padres out in the NL West too. That wild card's no joke, but we'll see.
We'll see. All right, a couple more free agent moves to talk about. We're going back to Brian's team, the Padres. They signed two guys, Seth Lugo and Matt Carpenter. These aren't like A-list free agents, but I think each of them kind of bring their unique talents to the team. Seth Lugo, curveball machine, got 2 years and $15 million player option. So have you faced Seth Lugo before? He's an NL guy.
I have not faced Lugo before, but every time I watch him pitch, I'm like, this dude is nasty. And I feel like he just has gone under the radar a little bit. I like that addition for the Padres. The Carpenter one is very interesting too, because like you said, he carried the Yankees for a little bit there. I think it's 14 homers in 47 games or something, which is very good. And reviving his career, obviously was a great hitter in his prime with the Cardinals. I mean, if you're getting that kind of homer production from Carpenter, that's a great DH or first baseman there for the Padres. I really like that signing too. If he can do what he did last year again or close to it. But yeah, I think the Padres are done on the big splashes there. I think they've made enough of those. So complimentary pieces are going around, but Lugo and Carpenter, I think, are two valuable pieces for sure. What do you think?
I like them both a lot. Like I think I had Matt Carpenter as one of my under the radar free agents, one of our top fives that we did. You're right, only 47 games last year, but the numbers he put up were like video games. He slashed 305, 412, and 727 with 15 bombs in 154 plate appearances. Probably won't do that for an entire full season, but who's to say that, a full year of being the DH, you probably don't want to put him in the field at 37 years old that often. But yeah, I mean, I wanted Trey Mancini to go be the Padres DH guy, but Matt Carpenter for 2 years that's a pretty sweet deal. And then Lugo, the only thing I had with him is that like he's had so much success in the bullpen. And like whenever you think back to him as a starter, it didn't really go that great. The Padres have said they would like to put him back in the rotation, but do you think that he'll be able to switch back and have the same level of success you feel like in the rotation as in the bullpen?
That I think that's the beauty of it, is if you give him a shot in the rotation, that's what he wants to do. And if it doesn't pan out, then you put him back in the bullpen and he'll probably, be just as effective as he was. They have two interesting. So they have him and they have Nick Martinez, who are kind of can do both. Or Nick Martinez did both last year, and Lugo has started before. So it gives you more options, and you kind of just see what's working and what's not working. But to have a guy that has the ability to go in the pen if need be, it's definitely a big thing for them too.
One last cool stat I found for Seth Lugo. We talked about his curveball. Since 2018, his curveball is ranked 16th out of 156 pitchers with 1.16 runs above average. per 100 pitches. I mean, the pitches never rank lower than the 99th percentile in spin rate, and it consistently features over 60 inches of drop. So Seth Lugo's curveball is, I mean, like that's like Barry Zito levels of like dominance. I mean, you think of like guys who are like curveball dominant, like that's just got to be so sick to spin it up there and just know that nobody can touch it.
Definitely tough to pick up, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
it's a lot of spin.
60 inches of drop. It's incredible. All right, couple last quick segments that we'll get to an review for this week. We have our Fudge-Ing Awesome Moment of the Week.
Our Fudge-Ing Awesome Moment of the Week is brought to you by our sponsor, the original Fudge Kitchen. You can find them online at fudgekitchens.com. They ship fudge and sweet treats all over the country. It's phenomenal. I need to order some more. And it stays good forever. And it took me at least 2 weeks to eat all of it because it was just, it's just so good. But Jersey Shore, Philly listeners, I don't think anybody's down there because it's supposed to be about 10 degrees up there coming up this weekend. But some people do go for the holidays, for Christmas and stuff. So if you're down there, they have locations in Stone Harbor, Cape May, Wildwood, North Wildwood, and Ocean City. Go check them out. It is Fudge Kitchen, and you can find them at fudgekitchens.com.
So this story comes because, you know, doing this podcast, we've had a lot of Tampa Bay Rays guys on, and my Twitter feed has slowly been morphed into a lot of Tampa Bay Rays topics. A lot of Tampa Bay Times articles pop up on my feed now, which I like. So I saw this article pop up, and it talked about how the Rays had traded JP Fireeisen to the Dodgers, and they got back this guy. He's a lefty reliever named Jeff Belge. And why it was interesting is because that Jeff Belge has had limited vision in his right eye, and he's considered legally blind. This guy, he had a freak accident when he was 9. A piece of shale went into his eye, and he had to have 2 surgeries. And then he, like the same eye when he was 17, he had to have another additional surgery. So this guy's had a really bad string of luck, and he's, like I said, considered legally blind. But he's 6'5", and he's a hard throwing pitcher. In the minors last year, he had a 3.66 ERA. So it's interesting his vision, how it was impacted because of those injuries. He says he can only see some colors in the outlines of objects. And he has a 2300/2400 vision. So you think 20/20 is perfect. He has 2300 vision in that eye. So I don't know how he functions as a pitcher like that. But despite all of that, like Belge says that like it's the vision part of that, it's not a big deal. He said, quote, "It doesn't really bother me. It's just me having a dream and following it. It's a bump along the way, and I had to get over that." So I thought that was a really cool story. I'm excited to see him in Tampa, though. We talked about this before we started recording. Like any guy that goes to the Rays, like, you know, the Rays saw something in him. So he's going to be probably just an awesome big league reliever here for them at some point.
Yeah, that's crazy. What a great attitude he has. But crazy story. Obviously, if the Rays, first of all, the Dodgers do it very well too. But if the Rays traded for him, you know, Fireeisen, good pitcher, just hurt. It's the only, and the Rays are always on a crunch for roster spots, so it's the only reason they traded him. But if this is the Rays wanted back for this, I mean, the kid's got to be able to pitch. So yeah, I'm sure we're going to see him next to Pete Fairbanks here pretty soon in that bullpen.
Yeah, people love this guy. All right, last thing for you guys, we have our top 5 for this week. We saw a really cool article was talking about how there's a lot of players in Major League Baseball that need to have a rebound year. Guys had a down 2022. They have to turn it around, or they're in need of a big turnaround for 2023. So Brian and I will be ranking our top 5 players in need of a rebound for the year 2023. I will start us off at number 5. I'm going to the Dodgers, Max Muncy. The Dodgers need all the help they can get offensively. We all know about all the guys they've lost this offseason. Justin, Trey Turner, like, you know, they've made some moves to try to fill those voids in the offense, but Max Muncy, if they're going to be good again, it's because they have guys like Max Muncy turning it around. You can't hit 196 again. Yeah, I looked, and in the first half, he hit 164. So if you're playing fantasy baseball and you had Max Muncy on your team, it was a tough sledding. Number 4, I have Javi Baez. Remember him? That's a name. I don't think a lot of people. So he's in Detroit now. In case you forgot about him, he just finished year 1 of a 6-year, $140 million contract with Detroit. First half of last year, he hit 213. He had 251 on base. So he got better in the second half, but the guy only had 17 home runs for somebody that usually hits 30. So Javi Baez definitely in need of a rebound for 2023. I'm going with another name you probably haven't thought a lot about recently. Number 3 is Chris Bryant. Remember him? Like, he's in Colorado now. He signed a 7-year deal for $182 million to play left field. He's had a lot of injuries. If you look at like the operation chart for him, it's just like every part of him is lighting up red. It's like back soreness, low back strain, plantar fasciitis, bone bruise. It's like the guy has just been riddled with injuries this past year. So I think if the Rockies are going to, go back to being a respectable franchise again in the out West, I mean, they signed him for a reason. Chris Bryant definitely needs a rebound. Number 2, I'm going Trevor Story. This guy missed 68 games, another injury guy due to wrist and heel injuries. But when he did play, he only hit 238, which is he's going to be your new starting shortstop every day for the Red Sox. So you got to fill that Xander Bogart size hole out there at shortstop. So Trevor Story is number 2. Last but not least, I'm going to Anthony Rendon. He's on a 7-year, $245 million contract. First 3 years of that deal, he's hit 20 homers and he's only had a 779 OPS. He's had 3.3 baseball reference WAR in 157 games. That's 3 years. And plus, okay, you'll say 2020 with the shortened season. He's played 32% of the games in full seasons back-to-back years last year and this year. So that offense, we always talk about how Trout and Ohtani can't, get anything done. They need a little protection. Why not just use the guy that's making $35 million a year to play third base? So Anthony Rendon, cleaned it up.
We have some of the same guys on the list for sure. My number 5 is Chris Bryant. You laid that out pretty good. Still think it's still just can't believe he's a Colorado Rocky. Just doesn't really compute in my mind. But yes, he just needs to be healthy. Good player when he's out there. Need him to stay healthy. Number 4, Anthony Rendon. You said it too. I mean, it's kind of sad, man, because I enjoyed watching him hit and play the field with the Nationals so much before he left, and it's just, has not worked out so far over there in Anaheim, mostly because of health. But yeah, need him to step it up a little bit this year. Number 3, Max Muncy. They need him. Aside from the fact of the down year he had last year, like the Dodgers need him to produce. They, like you said, they lost Justin Turner, they lost Trey Turner. Haven't signed anybody to fill those voids. He needs to hit like Max Muncy has hit, the past couple of years, not last year. And I love watching him hit too. I think he's a great hitter. My top 2 are different than yours. So number 2 is going to be Wander Franco from the Rays. Signed a big contract, was hurt a lot last year, and when he did play, was fine, but not as good as his rookie campaign. Still waiting to see that consistent power come out with him because I watched it firsthand. It's absolutely there from both sides of the plate. He's an absolute freak. But if the Rays are ever really going to get to where they come so close to getting seemingly every year, he needs to play at almost an MVP level. So Wander Franco is number 2, and then number 1 for me is Fernando Tatis Jr. Misses the first. I think he's out the first 29 games of the year off the top of my head, I think. But obviously it's been a tough year for him. Needs to come back, needs to be healthy, needs to go out there and play well and be the player he was before all this stuff happened. And on top of that, the old Fernando Tatis Jr. to that Padres team, man, wow, that could be something serious. So I'd like to see it, but he definitely needs to rebound just for his own sake and, man, just his legacy, everything. He needs to have a bounce back year this year, and I think he will.
He's eligible to return from suspension on April 20th, 420. Just hilarious.
So that's probably like 19 now. When's it? Yeah.
I feel like opening day is like March 31st now or something.
Yeah, probably about 20 games or so. So yeah.
Yeah, because the playoff run helped with like the offsetting in terms of less days in this year.
Oh, man, you're talking like Tatis, Bogarts, Machado, Soto, or whatever order it's going to be. Like, good luck. What a 4 to start off right there. Jesus.
I have the Dodgers projected starting lineup for 2023 as it sits right now. Betts, Freeman, Will Smith, Muncy batting cleanup, playing third. JD Martinez at DH, Gavin Lux at short, Trace Thompson in center, Chris Taylor playing second, and then James Outman in left field. I've never heard that name in my life.
Outman debuted last year. I think he's got a nice little swing. He wasn't up for very long, but it's tough to break in there with the Dodgers. But yeah, I mean, I think that the
Top three are
Padres
great.
lineup I think the Padres lineup is definitely better than that. Gavin Lux can be a superstar, I think, but yeah, I don't
6 through 9 doesn't scare anybody.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is not the type of lineup we've come to like be used to. The Dodgers running out these past couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's a nice way to put it. It's not the big bad Dodgers where 1 through 9 you're scared shitless that like, and everybody has like, you have Trey Turner stealing bases, you have all these guys hitting home runs, and it's like, I don't know. I feel pretty good if Chris Taylor and Trace Thompson and Gavin Lux are supposed to be providing run support. I don't know. Go Pods.
Yeah,
go.
2020, the World Series, like sitting there watching, and just every guy came up like, fuck, there's no break. Like, this guy's good. This next guy's good.
Every part of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely a little different from that.
Dang. Yeah. This just makes me excited for baseball to come back. I think you tweeted it last week where it's just like, you just want baseball to come back. I just want baseball to come back now so we can see the Padres play baseball.
We're getting there. We're definitely getting there. And for this week, our guest was Thomas Eshelman, pitcher, former pitcher, now pitching coach with the Padres. Played in Baltimore for a while there, so I know you had a lot of fun. What an awesome guy, and some cool stories he had. It was really fun talking to him.
It was. Yeah. I knew he would be a great interview for this because he checked a lot of boxes where it's like the Orioles connection. So I can nerd out and talk Orioles. And it's also like, he spent all of last year in the Padres minor league system. So there's some great conversations that we had about that. But yeah, I'm excited for him. He's going to be an awesome pitching coach there in the organization there for San Diego. So yeah, it was a great conversation. I nerded out all about the Orioles stuff. So that's just par for the course whenever we have a guy from Baltimore on, though.
A San Diego native too.
Yeah.
So pretty
Carl's
cool for him. Yeah, pretty cool for him to be working for his hometown team now. And he did have a very nice career. Can't wait to see what he does on the coaching side of it. So let's send it over to our interview with Thomas Eshelman.
And before we send it to our interview with Thomas Eshelman, we have two last quick things. We wanted to give a shout out to friend of the podcast, Actions Over Words. It's an apparel brand with the mission of encouraging people to use their actions instead of their words. Go to actionsoverwordsapparel.com and use code N4L for 10% off of your entire order. Also, we have a lot of great content in the Not For Long Media family of podcasts. We have Colin Thompson's show. Check it out. And also we have Two Girls, One League and Odd G's with two great Philly radio guys, Harry Mays and Jason Martinez. And now here's Thomas Eshelman.
And joining us today on Breaking Bats is former second-round pick of the Houston Astros. Was traded to the Phillies right after that. Made his debut with the Baltimore Orioles in 19. Cal State Fullerton guy, Thomas Eshelman. He's going to be a pitching coach with the Padres this year. Thomas, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing? What's going on?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Just kind of enjoying the life off a little bit in the off season before everything gets going again, and about getting ready for the holiday season. So that's fun.
Always a good time. We were talking real quick before we got to recording here. We got to give a shout out to old Chad Wallach if Wally ever listens to this. Thomas was telling me some stories about you and Fullerton, so we'll have to talk about that later. But man, before I let JA get into all the questions with you, just kind of what was this past year like with you being with the Padres in the minor leagues there? How was that? What was kind of going on?
It was fun. I mean, obviously being in the lockout situation and being a big league free agent was a little bit nerve-wracking of a time of not being able to understand when I could talk to teams and get a job or not get a job. So to be able to get a call halfway through March from the Padres organization asking me if I was be able to go down to Double-A and get some innings in for them, that was something that, one, it was one of those things where I've always wanted to play for the Padres and the organization, and two, it was right time and be able to get a job, obviously in those like scarce times. So it was a good experience. I was able to go up and down a little bit between AA and AAA and help out where stuff was needed and kind of checked my ego at the door, and didn't worry about where I was at, just having a job at that point. So it was a good experience, met a lot of good people, and obviously it translated into a coaching job in the org. So um, super good organization to be in right now. A lot of excitement, and looking forward to being able to work with them.
Got that right. Definitely a lot of excitement. Did you end up crossing paths with Brandon Dixon down there too?
I did, yeah. So I met Brandon first. The first time I met Brandon, we were in minor league spring training together, and we were like sitting in the back row. And in Arizona, I never got to experience Arizona spring training, and obviously the field's a little bit more spread out. So Dixon was running back and forth between fields, and he just finally sat down at his locker and took a deep breath. And first day I met him, I was like, "You all right, man?" And he's like, "Yeah, like it's just tiring, dude." I said, "Yeah, we're getting old, man." But to be able to be with him and start in San Antonio, and then watch him go up and be on the NLDS roster and everything. So super good dude. Couldn't happen to a better person.
Yeah, I forgot about that too because we talked about Wally and then we were talking about Zach Vinci before we were recording too. That was my house. That was my full house in the fall league in 2016 with Dixon, Vinci, Chad, and me. So we had some fun.
That's a good house.
It just popped in my head after that. But yeah, so you bounced up and down a little bit, but you also threw to Tatis sometimes.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
What happened with that?
So we were up in Tacoma. I was in El Paso at the time, and Tatis was just getting ready to bounce back off of his surgery, and he was going through a couple live ABs before he got sent out to go hit go do his rehab stint at affiliate. And I actually got sent from Tacoma to San Diego to go throw a couple live ABs to him, to make sure that he was ready to rock. And it was a cool experience to be able to throw to a guy like that. And I mean, I threw against him in 19, and he popped me then, and he popped me again in the live AB. So unbelievable talent though. And just be able to pitch in Petco again, and being able to pitch to a guy that was at that stature.
Yeah, that's cool. What'd you think? What'd you think of El Paso as a pitcher?
I liked it. I liked the stadium. I didn't like the pitching element to that. PCL in general is just a tough league to pitch in, but I mean, if you can learn how to create swing and miss in that league, and learn how to get weak contact, you're going to learn a lot about yourself and how to pitch in the big leagues. But yeah, it was one of those things where it was like guys were hitting balls, slamming their bats, and balls going out, especially in spots like Albuquerque. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I was like, everyone talked about it, and I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. And then I got to be in it and experienced it, and it was a learning experience for sure.
Yeah, it was definitely. I didn't El Paso hitting in El Paso. I actually really didn't like it. Like, I think there was like one ball I hit in El Paso that I was around the bases, and I was kind of like, all right, I don't know how that one got out, but I'll take it. But the other places, yeah, Albuquerque, Vegas, I missed Vegas, but all those places, Reno, are definitely, little Salt Lake, a little easier for the hitters there for sure. But something about the visual in El Paso I didn't like the backdrop. I didn't see the ball well
I
at
can
home at all
see
there.
that. Yeah.
I don't know really what it was, but especially like later in the game, once it was dark, I'm like, I feel like I can't see this ball right now. But it's a nice place, nice park, not a bad setup there at all.
One of the best parks I've ever played at too, as far as facilities wise. Like, it's close to big league as possible. I mean, I got to play in Lehigh Valley too, and that was right up kind of like the same alley
Nice.
of the niceness of a stadium. But yeah, I definitely took the IL for granted over the PCL.
I'm with you. I definitely like the IL better than PCL.
Yeah.
But last question for me before I let Jay start really rolling here. what's your favorite minor league place you've played in out of all
Favorite?
any level?
I like Charlotte a lot. Charlotte was
Charlotte's
definitely a good spot. Um, yeah, Charlotte and probably Portland, Maine, were my two favorite.
Did you
Uh,
play for Charlotte or just playing against Charlotte?
I played against them, but I was in the South Division of the IL in 21 and 19. Um, and we play there all the time, so I got to experience the city a lot. So it was cool.
Yeah, Charlotte. That might be number one for me too. Charlotte, that play. Have you been there, JA?
I have. I actually have been to a which was it Charlotte Knights? Yeah. I mean
Yeah,
the
the
backdrop
Knights.
for that place is insane, right? You get the whole skyline
Dude,
behind you.
it's
Next
so
level.
cool. It
Yeah.
really is. It's an awesome place. That was some fun games there for sure. Yeah, it's interesting to hear, especially guys who have played like both divisions, to hear the places that guys like and don't like.
That place was probably as close as the PCL as you're gonna get
Yeah,
to new balls. That it
yeah.
flies out of there with those balls.
Columbus was another place that was like that. I don't know if you got to Columbus, but I always loved
Yeah.
hitting in Columbus too.
Playing there with the old balls, they would still fly out there too.
Oh my god. Yeah, I hit the old balls. I went oppo for the first two times in my life in Columbus too. Like in the series, yeah, I'm like, I like this place.
Yeah.
Definitely play
That's when
here.
you're like, all right, I'm throwing a sinker today. And I'll never know how to throw a sinker, but I'm throwing one. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. All right, JA, what do you got?
No, one last minor league question because I think we've talked about Norfolk before. Brian, did you say that you do or you don't like playing at Harbor Park down there?
I hate Harbor Park. That might be my number one hated park in the
I
world.
remembered.
In 19, when I was there, I was rolling. Like I was fucking rolling. And I think it was the first at bat of the series there. And the wind was howling in off the bay or whatever. And I crushed a ball. I don't remember who it was off of. Crushed a ball. And I'm like, oh yeah, see ya. And knocked out, like caught on the warning track, and I'm just pissed off, so mad. And then I forget if it was the next at bat or like my third at bat that game or whatever, like a same thing. Absolutely like demolish a ball to right center. And I didn't even I slammed my bat down right away. I knew that it was gonna get caught at the track, same shit, like right up against the fence, caught. And it happened another game in that same series, at least one other time where caught at the track. I'm like, this place fucking blows. I hate this place. I think I had like one hit that series. I was like, get me out of here. Get me out of here. There in the old what was the Red Sox old place? Pawtucket?
Yep.
Dude, they had like a baby blue batter's eye. I was hitting 500 rolling in there, and I left with like 1 for 17 with like a half a thumb was how I got out of that place. It was brutal. Good times.
I loved it.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
No, it's got its perks, but definitely like they're actually gonna do. I think they're redoing it, and adding in like a casino and everything into left field over there. But definitely a pitcher's park for sure.
It was a cool place. I'm not knocking the place, but yes, the wind coming off the water there I was not a fan of. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's just so funny, like going back and forth because I'm a big minor league baseball guy. Living in Maryland, I feel like you could probably within a 2-hour drive visit like a dozen minor league baseball teams. So that was a large part of me growing up. So Harbor Park's cool, but yeah, it's just I love anytime we can bring up that Brian just he had a bad string of luck there with the ball coming off the wind there. I did want to go back though because I was reading all about your career at Cal State Fullerton. And just like somehow you had like the best command in college baseball at that time. Like it was 63 and a third innings without a walk, and you finished the year with 3 walks and 115 and 2/3. I mean, that's incredible. Where did that kind of command start, and like how were you able to accomplish all that?
So in high school, I had the ability to throw strikes, but I never really like put an emphasis on walks and being able to get ahead, stay ahead, or win the 2 out of 3, like we said in college all the time. And once I got to school, once I got on campus, like the main thing that they told me was basically, hey, like you're gonna have the ability to pitch, but you need to throw strikes and like get quick outs and yada yada yada. So I kind of took that underneath my wing and really tried to emphasize that in everything I did. And our pitching coach at the time, who's now the head coach there, his name's Jason Dietrich. His main thing was like stressed catch play. No matter what, like you had to hit the eye on the chest in a shirt that we had. It had Titans across the chest, and you had to hit the eye with every throw. And so I just kind of like really emphasized that with the way I've been about things and everything like that. And it just kind of translated honestly like into the games, and I was able to take what I did during catch play, and it went well for me. So obviously we like to throw the heater at Fullerton, and we did it a lot, and I gave up a lot of hits, but just try to limit damage as much as possible, and that was kind of our emphasis throughout the 3 years I was there.
How much of that as a pitcher is mental, where it's like, if you tell yourself, I'm not going to throw a ball, like, I think I read a story where it's like that maybe it was the pitching coach or the manager came out to the mound where you're pitching. Is like, you may maybe just walk somebody on 4 straight. It's like you throw another ball, you're out. So, and it just like how as a pitcher are you able to like lock it in and just tell yourself no more balls?
For me, it was the more I got ahead, the less I was able, or the more I was able to like be able to be comfortable, if that makes sense. So like if I got strike one, or if I got strike one, or if I won the 2 out of 3, if I went 1-0 and got 1-1, I was able to just kind of do what I wanted to do. So that's the main thing I stressed myself on, was winning the 0-0 count. And then being able to do whatever I want to do after that. But yeah, it was, we were facing Oregon. I walked a guy on 4 straight, I think it was, and my head coach at the time, his name's Rick Vanderhook, came out and said, "Hey, you walk the next guy, you're done." And everyone kind of in the huddle and the mound was like, "The hell is he talking about?" So it was obviously strikes were a big importance at Fullerton, but yeah, honestly, winning the 2 out of 3, getting ahead in the count, and putting myself in a good position to put the hitter on his heels a little bit more instead of on the balls of his foot, and getting hungry for a pitch to do some damage on, and that's what made me more comfortable about what I wanted to do.
Are these the kind of things, as we kind of jump around timeline here, like in your coaching career coming up here, are these the kind of things that like you can impart on some of these younger guys that are coming up through the organization, like the importance of winning that 0-0 count and everything you just mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, catch play is the biggest thing. I think if you understand the importance of catch play and how it could translate to your presence on the mound and your command on the mound, I think that's going to be a big importance. I think at times in professional baseball, guys kind of get lackadaisical with going out there and executing a good game at catch, myself included when I was there. And it was just kind of more of like, hey, go out there and go through the motions and get the body going, as opposed to truly understanding what you're trying to do that day, and what your intensity level is at, to potentially um, get what you need to get in and get out. I think that's the biggest thing, is just your mental focus on how you go about your catch play.
Any drills or anything like side work that you would do as well to kind of like sharpen your skills there?
I think it's more mentally. I think if you go through your mental side of forget, I don't know what the word I'm trying to say is, but visualization. If you visualize what you're trying to accomplish, I think that'll do a lot of big dividends into um, your overall game. That's something that we did at Fullerton. We had visualization station all the time at our batting practice groups, and guys visualize what they wanted to execute in their mind, and it kind of helped get their mental capacity to execute and overall translate to what they're trying to do on the mound.
Brian, anything like that applicable to your work as a hitter, like visualization and everything he just said?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of guys use visualization now because, the more research comes out about how powerful it can be. But, I usually, before I'm hitting, I'll picture myself, hitting the ball in the gap or whatever, running, jogging into second base, things like that. I definitely think that it makes a difference, and that you know, I feel like as a pitcher, it can be even better than a hitter because, the pitcher, exactly what you want to do. Hitter, we're kind of more reacting based off what pitch is coming. So if Thomas is up there about to throw, he can picture where he wants that fastball to go or whatever it is. But without a doubt, I think it's definitely a useful tool for, whether you're hitting or playing the field or pitching.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is fascinating from a fan's perspective to hear, like the mental side of the game. It's just it's so cool to hear. I did kind of want to jump ahead. So you have this fantastic career at Cal State Fullerton. The 2015 draft comes around. You have this obviously this great track record, all the success in college. What was that pre-draft process like? Like, what? Take me back to that time in your life. Was it a lot of taking calls, meeting with teams? Like, what was that all like for you?
Yeah, so 2015 season, I kind of went through the fall, and we had our meetings with the scouts in the fall, and a couple cross checkers came in and was able to sit down with them and ask me questions and put me through some plans on what they saw, or I don't even know what they're called, but to get to how I learn about things or how I am as a person, like personality tests, I guess you could say. And went through that, had the season, was pitching pretty well. And then my advisor at the time was telling me like what to expect. And then I went on a stretch where I had like 5 straight games where I punched out like 10 and was rolling and kind of boosted my draft stock a little bit through that side of things. And actually, we were in our super regionals at the time in Louisville, and the draft was on a Sunday, I believe. Sorry, Monday. It was on a Monday, and we were playing our third game in the regional. If we won, we went to Omaha, and that same night was the first day of the draft. So I just kind of had to put all my chips with my parents and make sure that they knew what was going on, what the number was, and all this kind of stuff. And my advisor worked through them and was able to talk with them. I was actually drafted, I think, 5 minutes post me closing out the game going to Omaha. So it was one of those things where I was literally in the post game meeting with our head coach, and I got a tap on my shoulder from our strength coach, and he showed me the draft ticker, and my name was come up, second round 46 pick by the Astros. So everything kind of hit me at once during that time, and it was pretty emotional.
My gosh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's one thing I wanted to really like talk a little bit more about was just like Mike Elias, who at that time for the Astros was their director of amateur scouting, I think. What was like the first time you guys met, and like how did that kind of, relationship grow over time?
Yeah, so Mike actually was the guy that I went in. So I went in, signed my contract in Houston, and he was the one that kind of brought in my family, took them around Minute Maid, and was able to do all the things, do all the interviews, and he was kind of like our point of contact and kind of built a relationship right there. And then later on down the road, just kind of when I got traded to Baltimore, at first I didn't even realize Mike was the GM at the time, and then I looked up the GM and it was Mike, and I was like full circle. So it was pretty cool. Got to talk to Mike when I got called up and everything like that. So um, obviously he saw something in myself that could help his ball club, and I was happy to be able to be a part of Baltimore and in their rebuild process, and I was really stoked for them to be able to be where they were at last year.
What makes Mike Elias so good at what he does?
I think the ability to have that type of relationships. I think obviously he just doesn't put value into a guy at the present moment, but wants to make sure to value them over time. And I think that was a big thing for him. And obviously, he's put in the work. Being able to be adaptable and understand that it's a process, and he was able to use that process that did in Houston and translate it to Baltimore. Um, and that's what I think that makes him really good.
You think also that he just convinces, like he's really good at like, like you said, convincing people like to trust the process and just convince people that like there is a plan in place. Like I'm sure even back when he was like going through the pre-draft process with you, I'm sure like the bigger picture was a big like topic of conversation at the time. Like, do you think that's also kind of where he's just like a great communicator and a great just like visionary mind when it comes to that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think Mike does a good job of having people around him to make him make decisions better for himself, if that makes sense. So like he's got a really good assistant GM with him on staff, and then he has a bunch of people that he's hired to put themselves in a position to be good. Um, for instance, like he's got his pitching guy over there in Baltimore with him. So he built up the minor league system again. He's done things to where he learns from other people and really trusts other people in the process. And I mean, they've built something over there that's going to be sustainable, and they got a lot of young guys with talent. And I mean, it looks like it's going to be heading in the right direction.
No doubt. Brian, I mean, obviously we've talked a lot about the Orioles here on this podcast before. So, you know, from the outsider's perspective, or are you just a big fan of of Mike Elias as well?
I appreciate what they're doing over there for sure. You know, I think um, that turnaround last year was just phenomenal. I don't think anybody expected them to be there. Yeah, I mean, you, JA, were talking about them making the playoffs at one point before they traded your boy Trey Mancini, and you didn't want him to trade him. But the turnaround and obviously, you know, I don't want to say the process, but whatever his plan is starting to work. And you know, the only tough thing is right now is that the other teams in that division are spending some pretty big money, and they haven't been able to find that right guy to do it on yet, or haven't done it. So, but obviously he knows what he's doing, and it's definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. You're right. We see the Yankees get Rodon, and we see the Blue Jays spending all this money, and we see Tampa doing all their things. Like, you know, would be nice to see the checkbooks open a little bit. I don't know, just a fan here. Yeah, it's like when you're in the Astros system with him, like how do they differ in terms of the way they went about, like, did they do the little things right, or like what fundamentally when you were with Houston did you notice that maybe even carried over to Baltimore?
They had a little bit of they had a plan, and they executed the plan without really like letting the player get his head spinning on what was going on, if that makes sense. So like I keep saying that, I don't know. But like analytically, like if you go into loopholes and you truly dive in on stuff, your head can start spinning a little bit, and you try to go and execute something that you're not supposed to be focused on. You're supposed to be focusing on performance and how to like win that game that night, or compete in the way they're supposed to compete. And I think that they're able to give the player just what was on the surface so that they have an understanding, and then the player would understand and then go out and perform. And I think that that was a big thing that they were able to do, and and obviously in some of the pitchers that they have, they are doing it, and they're young talents, and they're molding them in the right way.
What role did analytics play, or does it play, in your development as a pitcher? Like how nerdy would you get with some of these advanced pitching analytics?
Not that much, and that's what kind of like my thing right now is I'm truly trying to dive into it and try to get a better understanding of it. And like as a pitcher, I knew I had the old school mentality, and that was probably something that I should have had a little bit more of new school understanding, of how I can truly maximize my stuff and how I can change my stuff to better myself as a pitcher, and also just use my stuff into my strength areas. So I think that's something that I'm, as a pitching coach, I'm trying to grow on, and truly understand more and more in depth of what it is that makes pitchers click and find their kind of unicorns of their pitches, and how they can execute a pitch over and over again.
It's cool. I mean, like I was even looking at this, like it's like StatCast MLB.com has like a whole different website for like advanced pitching analytics from like a fan's perspective. Because I was trying to look up like what Carlos Rodon has done recently and how like his fastball velocity has gone up every single year. And like there's just all these charts and graphs and everything. So it's like, yeah, I mean, we really are living in that analytics age where I feel like anything you want to find out about how a pitch moves, or you know, tendencies, or you know, heat charts and spray charts, like I think, you know, right? Isn't it like, you know, the more information, the better when it comes to that stuff? Like, you know, there's a lot of that kind of analytic stuff available. It's just up to you to decide like how you want to use it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a big thing of, um, like I said earlier, not going down a loophole yourself, and how what you're looking at can maximize what you're trying to do. I mean, as far as like Brian can attest to this, but like for me, like they can look at where my fastball is most of the time and look for that kind of cut that zone, look for that ball out over if I'm missing arm side more than like a higher percentage of time. Or if I'm throwing more change ups to lefties or curveballs to lefties, you can sit on a curveball at that time too, or whatever. So I think it's something that you can kind of like zone in on something that you can look for and truly like maximize that in your own game.
Yeah, no, I mean, Brian, as a hitter, what kind of what's your favorite analytic of yourself that you like to look at, or what do you like to track when it comes to hitting?
That's a good question. I feel like the pitching analytics has become or is advanced faster than the hitting analytics. Um, when you talk about like analytics for hitting, it's like, exit velocity, I feel like is one that first comes to mind. And to me, like that should be obvious. You hit the ball hard. The harder you hit the ball, the more often you're probably going to have more success. Like that's the goal, right? Does it? It's very hard to do, but like Thomas is saying, if you can get the tendencies of a pitcher or the trends or things that he really likes to do, you might be able to sit on that curveball in that certain situation or look for that for the whole at bat, knowing that at some point he's going to try to do it, whatever it is. So things like that. But I'm still for hitting, I'm trying to build my swing and be on time and just react to a good pitch. I'm trying to keep it like that sounds more complicated than I wanted it to. Like I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible when I'm in the box. Like you do all the pregame work, you do all the work in the offseason, everything, so that when I step in the box, it's literally just see ball, hit ball. My body knows what it's supposed to do, and my eyes are just telling it what to do when the ball's coming. I'm
Especially
too
too, yeah.
I'm not smart enough to be doing all that while I'm trying to hit the ball.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I guess especially your job too, is like a pinch hitter there for a while. It was like very reactive, where it's like maybe you're like, because isn't it like if you're full time like everyday starter, you have like scouting reports of like starting pitchers, you have more data, but it's like if you're coming in off the bench, like I feel like a lot of guys just go up there and just kind of maybe they see what the pitcher's got going on from the on deck circle as opposed to having all this stuff available ahead of time.
Yeah, you're obviously the advantage is if you're playing the whole game or playing every day, you see guys more, and you're also just kind of the speed of the game. Whereas if you're coming off the bench, maybe you faced this guy before, and maybe that's why you're pinch hitting. Maybe you have a good, you've had success against them, whatever. But you're pinch hitting, it's like, okay, he likes it. You might know this guy goes first pitch slider to pinch hitters or whatever. But my number one rule for pinch hitting was like, if first pitch is fastball, you better swing at it. Basically, you don't want to get because most of the time you're pinch hitting against late, back end bullpen arms and stuff like that. Like you don't want to give those guys free strikes or free, fastballs on the plate. Like you better be taking your shot at that. So it's definitely a different dynamic, but that's what makes it hard and what makes it fun to do when you get it done right.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, but
yeah,
perfect example for me, sorry, is uh Daniel Bard. I pinch hit off Daniel Bard that season with the Padres. We were down a run, and I was leading off the inning, and throws 100 with a good slider, and I just got called up that morning, and I was like, "Fuck it," I'm taking a chance right here. Like I'm fastball middle, and I'm just gonna be ready for it. And if he throws me a slider that bounces at 30 feet and I swing at it, so be it. Like I don't care. And sure enough, it was a fastball down the middle at 99, and I hit it off the top of the fence and scored double scored to tie the game. But sometimes as a hitter, man, that's you gotta just take your chances sometimes.
Thomas, like you worked, as a starter, as a reliever, like did your approach change depending on like what your role was going to be? Like, or were you just the same guy no matter what the situation was?
A little bit. I mean, obviously, as a starter, you got a little bit more time and more time to really set up what you want to do. And most of the time, as a reliever, especially in my situation, which I was a long guy, I was kind of like a plus minus guy. So that means like if you're up by a lot or down by a lot, you're pitching. And my main thing was when I'm in that situation, I get ready fast and I go in there and I try to make the game as fast as possible. because a lot of the position players don't want to be out there at that time. So my main thing was to pound the zone and get them in the dugout as fast as possible, and get on with get on with the game, and save the bullpen for a possible winning game the next day. So kind of like in that situation, I was kind of just be quick and save the bullpen and throw as many pitches as possible to make sure that the bullpen's ready for the next day.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about that before. Did like your teammates and the guys in the field, did they appreciate that?
It was kind of like a subtle, like, hey man, like slap on the ass, because obviously we just got our asses kicked, or just won by a lot, and there was a lot of like different kind of emotions in the locker room. So you get in you after your game, and it's like everyone's riding a high because some guy just went 4 for 4 and hit like 2 jacks, or some guy just went 0 for 4 with 4 punch outs, and our starter just got crushed. So it was one of those things where you kind of go in like you kind of in yourself like slowly say, all right, I did my job, but I'm not going to be stoked on it. Make sure I get myself ready for the next opportunity, and just know that when you go home at night, I did my job, and hopefully we get a win the next day.
That's so cool to hear. Your major league debut though, and go ahead, Brian.
No, it's just like that job. People like don't understand how important of a job that is. What he just talked about. Like, I don't think fans appreciate the guys who end up in that duty, like the players in the clubhouse, especially the pitchers in the clubhouse do, of whoever does that, because you literally are, you're saving arms. Like you're doing so much for your team that people don't realize. Yeah, if you're losing 10-0 and you're the one who's got to get on the mound, then keep getting outs and do it. Like it's so important. I don't think fans appreciate that as much as they should.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And sorry, just had to throw that in there.
That's a valid point. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Because if it's like, if I'm a fan and I'm sitting there and my team is losing by a lot, one, the game's probably been turned off already. But two, if I'm still sticking around, you're right. It's like, yeah, I guess I don't appreciate the guy who comes in there. Was it mop up duty or whatever? Is there like a term for like, yeah, we're winning?
Because what you're doing is like the next day, you have guys fresh to, if it's a 2-1 game or whatever it is, you have more guys ready to throw that game if you need them. Or if it's another scenario, like you're just doing so much for your team that people don't realize, whether you're doing it when you're up 10 runs or down 10 runs.
We had a running joke in the bullpen. And obviously 2019 was a tough stretch for Baltimore a little bit. But there was a running joke when I had a sweatshirt on, and I would like, once the game started getting out of hand, I would take off my sweatshirt and say, this looks like a job for mop up man. So obviously it's something that we never wanted to happen, and I love each and one of every one of those guys, and we went through a lot of stuff with one another, but we just kind of made sure that we kept it light in the current time. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where, like Brian said, you never want to be in that situation. And obviously if you're a rookie, it's kind of like a not a hazing thing, but it's something that you got to get yourself out of that spot. And if you come in there, you pump strikes and you put the game to close and keep those arms fresh for the next game, it kind of puts it in the back of the mind of the manager of, hey man, this guy could potentially earn a spot start, and if you do well on that spot start, you can kind of get the ball rolling into another start and potentially be a starter in the back end. So it's definitely one of those things where it's not one of those things you ever want to go through, but it's kind of like a well-respected position.
Yeah, I mean, especially too, because like if it's, I guess the name of the game there is just like keep the game manageable, and then at the end of the day too, it's like make sure you don't have to have a position player pitch, because I feel like that would probably be, if you don't do your job, it's the second baseman's coming in to pitch for a little bit, and that might be.
We had another running joke in Baltimore. I was so rough game. We were losing 23-2, I think, at the time to Houston, and it got out of hand in about the 6th or 7th, and then they called down after we had already used, I think, like 4 or 5 pitchers, including the starter, and obviously we had our like guys that we threw when we were up, So they were down, and I was kind of sitting there like, all right, what's going to happen now? And sure enough, called down, hey, get hot. It was the 8th, and I get 2 outs in the inning, and then they bring in Stevie Wilkerson. So our running joke after that game was that I was Stevie Wilkerson's setup man. So he was coming with us to bullpen dinners and everything like that. So, but again, just keeping it light. Yeah, just getting through the season. But like I said, every one of those guys, and I'll say this all the time, every one of those guys were grinding. Like they didn't want to be that team. They didn't want to be in that position. And so it was a special group. I still talk to those guys to this day. And yeah, it was rough, but I mean, everyone got better because of it, and they learned a lot.
I miss Stevie Wilkerson. What was his nickname? Was it like Dr. Poo Poo or something?
No, Breezy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It could be Dr. Poo Poo too, though.
Look that up. Yeah, it's like these are the things that like we forget about with like the 2019 Birds, 2020 was actually a better year for them, but just like the down years for the Birds, it's just like, you know, there were guys like grinding who were trying to make a name for themselves, and that was a fascinating conversation we just had about that, because I like, you know, brought back some good memories and some not so great memories. I want to talk about a good memory though. I want to talk about your major league debut that came in 19 against Tampa. Like stepping into a locker room like in the middle of the year, like what was that experience like for you, and what do you remember about your debut?
That's why I say like every one of those good guys were good dudes, and I walked in that locker room, and Chris Davis came right up to me, Trey Mancini came right up to me, and they introduced themselves, and I'll remember it to this day. And but it was awesome. I got to experience my start with Cashner in the dugout, and it was just I remember I grew up watching Cash pitch when he was with the Padres. So, but it was cool. I got to get my family down there, and my wife was down there with me, and then my agent as well. But it was just one of those things where it was like super surreal. Something that, I mean, Brian, you know, it's one of those things where you work towards your entire life, and then you hop out on that field, and it's like just like eye-opening. It's something that you can't even put into words, and it's like I got a great text from my buddy's dad who played 13 years in the big leagues, and kind of settled my nerves a little bit, and was able to go out there. And I gave up a 2 spot in the first, and then after that I got in the dugout, and Cash kind of brought me over with. He goes, "All right, you're done. Now go pitch." So it was great to have those veteran presences in there, because I was able to kind of talk to them and bounce stuff off them, and kind of get a slap on the ass and say, "Hey man, like just be you. Don't change anything, and just understand that you've been playing this game your entire life, and it's the same thing." So was in line for the win, but didn't happen. But it was a great experience.
Yeah, as you were saying that, Steve, I found the Stevie Wilkerson thing. Brandon Hyde said he threw poo poo out there, and then he elevated him to doctorate when he got a save in July of 19. So I forgot about that.
That's when he's in Cooperstown because of that. He was a 2-inning save in Anaheim.
You were on the team then, right? That was in July.
I pitched that day. Yeah, I think we all did. Our bullpen was done. We didn't have any more guys in the bullpen. I think it was 16 innings.
Yep.
Or 9. It was 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had 2 innings, and he got Pujols to fly out to center to end the game. That was wild.
Throwing like 55-mile-an-hour gas.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But to go back to you for a second, you're right, because those 2019 teams is like the Orioles did have a lot of veteran presences on that team. Did that kind of like make you feel more comfortable having guys that have been there, done that? Like, I mean, gosh, Chris Davis. I mean, was Mark Trumbo floating around at that point too? So like, yeah,
Trumbo. So Trumbo, I would sit next to him in the dugout, and he would just kind of talk baseball, and I loved just listening to him, because he was just so ahead of his time with everything, and he just saw stuff in a different light. And I mean, it's a shame that his body was not able to stay healthy, but because he was an unbelievable talent and just super smart baseball mind. And just some of the stuff he would say, he's just like, here comes a slider. And I'm like, why do you say that? And he would like explain it to me, and I'm like, geez, dude, you're way ahead of what's going on right now. So just to be able to hang out with him and just absorb everything that he was saying, and We also had Richard Blyer in the bullpen and Michael Givens and all those guys. So I was able to I was I was able to mess with them a little bit after I got a little bit comfortable. I remember I was in the bullpen one day and we were going out to the pen pregame, and I gave Trumbo a hug, and Blyer turned back to me and goes, "Did you just give Mark Trumbo a hug?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "Don't ever do that again." So I was kind of like I just kind of like would jab. I was like their little brother. I would jab at them, and they liked it enough, and thank God they did because I learned a lot from them. And so I was happy that Michael just signed back with the O's actually. So it's they were really really cool to me.
I did see that. That's such a cool thing that they brought him back. Do you still keep up and down with some of these guys that you play with in Baltimore? Like, who are you most friendly with that you took away from your time there?
Um, Evan Phillips, who's now with the Dodgers, I keep in touch with a lot. Keep in touch with Brandon Klein, Tanner Scott. I text Blyer every now and then. I just texted Givens today actually and tell him congratulations. So I try to keep up with them as much as possible. As you guys know, it's just life gets quick and you lose touch with a lot of them. But we were we were joking around saying that we should have a reunion here soon and get all of us together. So, but yeah, I still try to keep in touch with them as much as possible.
I love that. Yeah, there's some great characters in there. Um, we've talked a lot about this with Brian before. It's just like having minor league options and getting called up and sent down. Like I think you probably rode the Norfolk shuttle a time or two. Like what was that experience like? And was that hard? Just like, having the uncertainty of call up, sent down, call up, sent down, that kind of thing.
My first year, yeah, it was tough. Especially I didn't really understand it, and my first time was after my debut, and I went 5 innings and gave up 2 runs against Tampa, and the next day I was optioned out. So I really had to understand like the business side of things. I needed to understand like the roster size and injuries and IL stints and just because I had a good one doesn't mean I was going to stay up there. But I was up 2 weeks later and because of another injury. So um, that's when I truly had to like just kind of take it all in. And then I understood that just as quick as I was gone, I was quick up. So um, that's something that I kind of took into my own game was not to worry about what was going on up there, but just to kind of stay ready mentally and stay ready and for a call. And um, obviously 21 was like that too. I was DFA'd I think 2 times that year. Um, that was 3 times because after the season was over too. So, but it was just it's tough. Like mentally, it's tough because you want to go up there, you want to be able to be on the team and compete and win. And my big thing in 21 was just I just wanted to be there and win. I didn't want to be on the teams that lost in Baltimore. I didn't want to have that stigma around my name. So for myself, I wanted to truly bring Baltimore back, and that's why I was happy for them last year is that they were able to do that. So it's just exhausting after you get done with the season. You look back on it, you're just like, oh, you're like, I'm glad to be home for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have the decompression time there, especially, going through the ups and downs of those Orioles teams like you were on. I did want to ask, in Norfolk, did you threw to Adley Rutschman, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I threw to Adley. He got called up. I think it was halfway through the year. He got called up with us. Big deal. There were some rumblings in the locker room when he was on his way up, and everyone was like, "We're really getting him." So, unbelievable dude. Work ethic is off the charts. Um, just truly like doesn't change who he is. No matter what level he's at, he's gonna run up to you after the inning's over with and put his arm around you and talk with you. So that's something I respect with him a lot. And he does a really good job of just kind of not letting the moment get to him and truly just staying true to himself.
It's a shame Richard Blyer isn't on these Orioles teams now. I'd love to see how he'd react to like an Adley after the inning hug.
Oh, Rich will definitely say something, but Adley wouldn't care. He would still do it. So I think him and Rich actually got along really well in spring training. And I think that was in 20 that was in 20 because he got called up. He was not called up, but he was with us in big league spring training. So he was definitely Rich likes to give people hard times and see where they're at. So it was funny to watch them interact with one another.
Just I don't even know why this popped in my head, but I remember when Richard Blyer was on the Marlins and he got into an argument with I guess it was like the umpire, but he was sitting in the dugout and he gave him the double bird. So I don't know if that sounds like a
that
Richard
was over
Blyer
a
moment.
check swing. Yeah, I remember that. That was funny. When I saw that, I was like, "That's Rich."
Yep.
So he's a character, man. One of the funniest guys I've got to play with.
Yeah, that's so funny. Real quick, going back to Adley though, did you notice a difference thrown to him as opposed to other catchers? Like, what do you think makes him so good at his job as a catcher?
I think he cares. I don't think, I know he cares. He puts in the effort, he puts in the work, and I think that's the thing that I like as a pitcher throwing to, is that I know that he's done everything to put himself in a position to help us. And ultimately that's what I like about catchers. And it was one of those things where he was able to block everything. He was throwing, he was understanding what the game situation was and everything. So he's wise beyond his years, and I think that he's definitely got a big league mentality, and I think he'll be a big leaguer for a long time.
Absolutely. As an Orioles fan, it just makes me feel good knowing that we have somebody like him on the staff, because like I have to imagine playing with him is infectious, like, right? Because like it's everything. It's like the hugs after the innings. It's just he's always got a smile, and like you said, you could tell he puts in the work. So I mean that guy, I mean he must be one of the best like teammates and guys to be around too.
Yeah, 100%. Just goes in. He's got a plan each and every day, and he's executing the plan. And I think that that's a big league mentality of truly understanding what he needs to do that day and going in there and executing it.
I love that. All right, I just have a couple, few last Orioles things for you. You're in the Orioles system for as long as you were. Like, who are some guys that like you maybe play with in the minors that like maybe aren't household names, or maybe haven't gotten called up yet, like that Orioles fans should be excited about, or you want to get some shine to?
I don't know. That's kind of tough because a lot of guys gotten called up that I've played with, and last year I was there as a 21. So, but I like Stowers. Stowers is a very good left-handed bat. I didn't get the chance to play with Vavra, but the arms I like Bradish, Gunner. I think Gunner's going to be really good. Henderson. That's who am I thinking of? His name's blinking me right now, but it's the top prospect. He got hurt last year, wasn't able to make his debut.
Grayson Rodriguez.
Grayson, sorry, yeah, sorry, Grayson, if you're listening to it. But Grayson is Grayson's the truth, man. I really like Grayson. So the arms are really, really exciting to be able to watch, and it's electric, every one of them. So I'm glad that they're gonna be able to get their opportunity up there.
Did you play with Ryan Ripken?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he's been on this podcast a bunch. We're all buddies with him. That's what was the Ryan Ripken experience like? That guy's the best.
He's his character too, man. He really kept it loose. Came in every day and just had something for us all the time. So great teammate, great person. Off the field, just wanted to get everybody together and stay close. And obviously 140 games is a lot. So to be able to like get off the field and truly get together and enjoy life outside of the stadium. So it was cool. It was he was definitely a glue guy and kept us all together.
I get those vibes from him. Yeah, he's doing his own media thing now too, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
All right. I just had a couple quick last rapid fire questions to wrap up our interview. Thank you so much for coming on here, by the way. This has been one of our favorite conversations by far.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Which Orioles teammate would you most want to have your back in a fight?
In a fight? Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott, immediately.
Fall Lake teammate, Tanner Scott.
Yes.
Sorry.
Without a doubt.
That's hilarious.
Dang. That's high praise. I mean, you play with guys like Chris Davis, whose biceps are the size of people's legs. So that's high praise for Tanner Scott, the hard thrower down there.
Yeah, no offense to CD, but Tanner Scott, yeah, he's a wiry guy and he's pretty strong as well. So I've seen him in the weight room throwing stuff around.
Oh yeah. I remember there was a point, I think it was like in the Orioles bullpen, where it just seemed like everybody had like super long, cool hair. maybe it was like Asher Wojciechowski and Hunter
Yep.
Harvey, which just had like these cool mullets. Did you ever think about growing your hair out to kind of match that flow?
No, I'm good. I'll leave that to those guys. Yeah, we would give those guys crap all the time because Hunter and Wojo would get like mistaken on the road a couple times. So it was just funny to see that. But yeah, every chance they got to take off their hat too, it would be off. So it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was. I talked to Jeff Arnold, who's the Orioles radio guy. He said that him and Ben McDonald were just sitting up there like, wow, that is a lot of hair. That is just both those guys double barrel. Of all the big league stadiums, we talked about your favorite minor league stadiums you've played in. What's your favorite big league stadium you've played in?
Petco had a close one in my heart because that's home. But not only that, but it was loud. It was one of the louder stadiums I've ever played at. And I couldn't imagine how loud it was during that NLDS games. But also Yankee Stadium. I liked Yankee Stadium a lot too. One, because they had an indoor bullpen, which was nice. So, I have to get yelled at the entire game. But two, just being able to pitch in that stadium with those types of fans and the stigma that are wrapped around that place was something that you can forever hold on to and have plenty of stories with throughout your entire life.
Really cool. We've talked a lot about Cal State Fullerton. They've had some incredible alums in the big leagues, or they have some incredible alums in the big leagues. If you had to pick like a Mount Rushmore, like your top 4 of Cal Fullerton baseball players, who would be on there?
You're gonna get me in trouble with this one. Kotze, Nevin, Wallach, Tim Wallach, and then I would say JT, Justin Turner. Those are pretty like Mount Rushmore guys. But there's been a ton, man. There's guys in there that really like they all just do super like really good jobs of what they do, and they understand themselves really good. But there's plenty of them. Ricky Romero is another one that comes to mind. So there's a lot of them.
Yeah, that's maybe that was a little unfair of me to put that just a 4 because I was looking at the list of Fullerton baseball. It's like even like Matt Chapman. I was like, wait, he went there?
Yeah, and I'm going with the alumni with this one. Matt's up there, but I'm making sure that I respect the guys that built the program first, and then go to those guys.
I didn't realize Tim Wallach went there too.
Yeah, Tim was there.
That's Chad's dad, Jay.
Oh. I was like, the last name sounded familiar.
Good big leaguer himself too. But yeah, it was that's awesome. I thought you were giving Chad the nod at first, and then I was like,
that's another one there too. Yeah, I mean, there's just a ton of them. Mike Lorenzen too.
Yeah.
So Noe Ramirez. There's just plenty of them out there.
That's so cool. All right, last question is: what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice that I ever received. Don't let the game change who you are. Don't let the people in the box change who you are. Don't let anything else. Don't let someone tell you something that you can't do. And don't let it dictate your mindset. I think that's the big thing that I've taken is that before my debut, I got a text basically saying that was less explicit like that. So if someone took a big swing off me, like don't let them get comfortable. If I have to go high and tight, go high and tight. It's just when you get into the lines, it's more about just being who you are as a pitcher and playing the game as opposed to trying to respect guys. You're going to earn respect with the way you pitch and the way you compete. And then off the field, that's when you start going back to like respecting who has been there, veterans, all that kind of stuff. But when you cross those lines, don't let that change who you are.
I like that. Dude, this has been incredible. This has been so great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thomas, thank you so much, man. I know Jay was really looking forward to this one for the Orioles, and the Padres, I think, got a really good pitching coach coming too. So happy for you, man. Congrats on the career and moving into coaching now. I'm sure you're going to do great things with that too, man. This has been awesome. Love talking to you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.